لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف وجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره. Alhamdulillah, we've been able to study Islamic theory of ethics, and in particular what can be helping us having a better understanding of activities in virtual space or cyberspace. So as you remember, we already made few points. So point 5 is that in addition to the action itself, it's the intention that defines whether an action is morally good or bad or insignificant. So anything that we do, we should be thinking about our intention. If we are watching, if we are posting, if we are chatting, if we are surfing the net, it's very important to think of our intention and also to keep that intention sincere, because sometimes we start something with good intention, but then maybe the idea of showing off, the idea of drawing attention of people to ourselves, get into our sincerity and damages our sincerity. So the difference appears in the alms given with sincere intention or with insincere intention in order to show off or without proper intention. For example, a person can sometimes be sleeping and doing something, can be drunk and doing something. So as we said, intention is the foundation of the action, and we have to be very careful about our intention. The next point, point 6, is the more alert and self-conscious the agent is, or the more knowledge the agent has about the case, or the more aware the agent is about himself or his position in the world and his relation with God, and then the more sincere intention and pious character the agent has, the more valuable his action becomes. So it's not just the physics of the action, it's not just the outcomes of the action, it's a matter of how alert we are, how conscious we are, then how much knowledge we have. If someone is alim and someone is not alim, even if they do the same thing, would not have the same impact. How much we are thinking of ourselves and our relation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how much sincerity is there. So it's not just saying we should have good intention. Even people with good intention, they may have many different levels and conditions. So we have to invest on more alertness, like salat. The more you are alert during the salat adds to the value. The more knowledge you have adds to the value. The more sincere you are, you have more value. So I mention as an example, I say, for example, continuing an act of worship, which may even take place with sincere intention, but lacks self-consciousness and is not done in a contemplative way for a year or 60 years, is not as valuable as contemplation for a while, even if does not lead to action. This is another way of looking at the famous hadith, تفكر ساعة أفضل من عبادة السنة, or من عبادة الستين سنة. When you do something without thinking and when you think for a while, what's the comparison? Hadith says tafakkur sa'a, thinking for a while is better than worship for 1 year or 60 years. So it means that even thinking that might not lead to ibadah, because it doesn't say ibadatu sa'atin, it says tafakkur sa'a, because tafakkur by itself is ibadah. If tafakkur, even without physical worship, is there, And on the other hand, there is worship without consciousness, without contemplation. The comparison is that tafakkur is better than 1 year of ibadah, or 60 years of ibadah, or 70 years of ibadah, depending on the quality of that tafakkur. So even for something like ibadah, if there is no reflection, no understanding, no contemplation, it would not be as valuable as when you do something little with contemplation. So anything we do, especially on internet, it should be coming with maximum alertness and reflection, contemplation. Why I am doing this, how I am doing this, what I expect, what things I have to be planning for, what things I have to be worried about, how I should protect myself. So all these things come to consideration. We understand also from our hadith that a sleeping of a pious scholar is better than worship of a worshipper who is not learned. So even nawmul alim afdalu min ibadatil jahil. 2 units of prayer of a learned person is better than 70, and in some hadith 1,000 units of prayer of a worshipper who is of course not alim. If a worshipper is alim, then that's the best. So the Quran says, إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. God only accepts from the pious. That is Surah Ma'idah chapter 5 verse 27. Point 7. One difference between the animals and human beings is that animals are triggered automatically by anything that can stimulate their instincts or desires. For example, it seems that for a hungry cat to decide to move, it's enough to see a mouse. If a cat which is hungry see a mouse near, then goes automatically after the mouse. And the mouse automatically runs away when notices that there is a cat. So nothing is after evaluation and making a decision to do or not to do. It's automatic. It's by instinct. But however, human beings can act according to their instincts or the signals that they receive from outside, but it's up to them to act or not. And if they want to act, whether they want to act promptly or with delay. So a human being can give different types of response to something that stimulates him or triggers his desires. The more sophisticated and careful one's decision-making process is, I repeat, the more sophisticated and careful one's decision-making process, one's process of decision-making is, the more human his actions are. It's a big claim that I am making here. Because a big difference between human beings and animals is that we have free will. We are able to choose between different options. So if we want to be more human, we should invest on our freedom, free will, choice, and use it properly. If we are driven by forces coming from outside or inside, if people can trigger us automatically, if we instantly respond without understanding, it means that we are risking our humanity and we are maybe even losing our humanity little by little. So it's not necessarily a matter of time. I'm not just saying that, you should not do it promptly or you should take time. No, it's a matter of having enough chance to examine all the relevant factors effectively and adequately, and then make the decision based on the facts and for the best interest of the agent and others involved. So the more we are aware of what we are doing, the more we take time to reflect and evaluate and examine our options and the outcomes and the pros and cons, then the more human would be our activity and our presence on internet. Point 8. This is about developing habit and doing things habitually. So in point 8, I have said doing something out of habit is only good when in the first place that habit was developed with understanding. So I'm not against having habits. Maybe we can have good habits actually, and would help us. We would also help our children, our students to develop good habits so that they don't need to struggle every time. When they have good habit, it helps, facilitates doing good things. But first of all, we have to decide what is good so that we make a habit. Then it should be for ourselves a chance of still understanding what we are doing. Not that we make a habit and then we do things without understanding. It becomes automatic. As soon as something becomes automatic, as soon as something becomes void from consciousness and alertness and understanding, it would lose its moral value, or it becomes very, very little. So we have to develop good habits, but with understanding and for good reason. And if still some level of awareness is there when acting habitually, so that one is aware of what is doing and why he is doing. So not only bad habits or habits of doing bad things are to be avoided, but also habits of doing good things need to be watched carefully so that they don't become an obstacle for reflection and conscious doing of the action. Indeed, one of the common problems in doing rituals or regular acts of worship is that they may be performed just as a habit without awareness and consciousness. And this makes the rituals and acts of worship like a body void from a spirit. For example, in Islamic narrations, it has been explicitly mentioned that in order to have the right attitude towards ritual prayer, salat, we should have iqbal of heart. Iqbal means to come, to arrive. This means presence of heart. So if you want to go to meet God and talk to God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have to do it with your heart and mind. Your soul should not be absent. So this is very important. So even if for something like salat, which is so important, we should try to preserve our understanding and presence of heart, then you can understand what will be the situation about other things, about other activities, about our online, for example, activities. Point 9. In order to gain optimally from good habits, one needs to make sure that one remains fully conscious of what one is doing and why. So this is also very important, but because time is very short, I move on to the next one. Point 10. It's about addictions. Addictions are always negative. It's not just a habit. Addiction is not just a habit. Addiction is so severe that it needs treatment, because the agent loses control over his or her action and cannot easily give up. So one needs to be very cautious not to become addicted to internet. Some people think addiction is only for smoking and drugs and alcohol, but some scientific research has shown that even one can become addicted to internet. And you know, when you become addicted, then the problem is that you are not able to stop by yourself. You need treatment. You need therapy. in some sources, you find, for example, the way they distinguish between habit and addiction. They say habit is a behavior pattern developed by frequent repetition of the act over and over to the point that brain does it automatically. This is habit. But an addiction is a compulsive need of a certain thing or substance to the body. So addiction is marking the body, which when deprived causes horrible effects. A habit can be controlled or modified, while addiction cannot be controlled and requires professional help for modification. So we have to be very careful not to let using internet, social media becomes addiction. So my suggestion is that there should be every day some time that we don't use them, and every week some time that we don't use them, like a sabbatical, time that we should have when it comes to internet. Point 11. When a conscious, free, and well-informed agent performs an action out of a virtue, or in order to acquire or preserve or strengthen a virtue, that action is considered as a virtuous action. So if you want to do something in order to become generous, in order to become kind, then those actions become good. Similarly, when a conscious, free, and well-informed agent performs an action in order to bring good to one's life or life of others, or improve the overall balance between good and bad by reducing the evil, that action is also good. So in Islam, point 12, in Islamic ethics, we deal with all changeable or secondary qualities of human beings. Anything that can be made different, can change. It includes everything about our relation with ourselves, our relation with God, our relation with other human beings, and our relation with the environment. So all of them are discussed. All of them are important. Point 13. All the above relations are to be observed all the times. There is no time that you can relax and say, okay, my relation with other people, I don't bother. Or my relation with environment, I don't bother. Or my relation with ourselves, we don't bother. No, you should observe all the time all these relations. Cyberspace is not an exception. Sometimes people think that for some reasons the cyberspace is not a real world. They take it easy. They say it's not a real world. Real world is when we have physical encounter with people, when we see each other, when we talk to each other, we hear each other directly. But internet is not reality. It's an kind of as if it's kind of imaginary world or illusion. But the idea is that actually cyberspace is also reality. It's not an exception. So it has to be remembered that it's a real world, and sometimes actually it has more power than what you do in person. Maybe in person you speak to few people, but what you do on internet can have thousands or more of interactions. So cyberspace is not an exception. Sometimes people think that for some reasons the cyberspace is not a real world. They mistake it for an imaginary world or a fantasy world. But the fact is that cyberspace is real, like any interpersonal reality that we have experienced. We should not think that just because we may try to hide our identity and function anonymously, or we may deal with the people without knowing them, then that's enough. No problem. There is no eye to eye, for example, contact. There's no physical or fleshly No, still it's real. It's true that what happens on the internet may not reflect all the realities on the ground. This is also something to remember. You know, sometimes we get overexcited about internet, or we get too sad about not being victorious on internet. For example, if you get many likes, you think, oh, you have made a great achievement. Or if you don't receive any like, you think you have lost a lot. But you have to be careful. Success is finally measured by what happens on the ground. Sometimes, for example, those who do political activities before an election, they think they have won the election, but you see the reality is that they have not won the election. Or you see everything was engineered, for example, you know, by robots, and, you know, they try to, you know, persuade people to vote for one side, but it's not that it was the reality of ideas of people. So it's real. Cyberspace is real, but at the same time, you have to understand it's not the only reality. It's not the only one. So I move on to the next one, 14. Working in the cyberspace is very delicate issue and more sophisticated than working in ordinary space. You shouldn't think it's easier. You know, sometimes we think, okay, it's difficult to speak, you know, facing people, looking at their eyes, and they look at my eyes. You know, I may feel, you know, very shy, very embarrassed to talk in front of people, but I can put a camera and start talking without seeing anyone on Facebook or, you know, YouTube, whatever. But the reality is that if you really know what you are doing, you should get more stressful something online. Because if few people are here watching you and you make mistake, it's just few people and it's going to remain here. But if it is put online, it's not only few people, it's not only friends, it's not only people of this time and this location, friends and enemies, today and tomorrow, here and there, they all will be watching you. So which one needs more care? Which one needs more skill? Just to speak in a gathering, physical gathering, or to speak on internet? So the cyberspace is very real, and actually the care that we should have and the precaution that we should exercise on the cyberspace, whether it be in our own activities like emailing, commenting, liking, putting posts, etc., or as an intended or unintended audience and addressee, has to be much more. We should not be surprised if we hear someone saying that I have no difficulty in talking to many friends or giving a speech in a congregation or a school, but I am very stressful when I want to talk live for a few minutes, or I want to put online my talk. You shouldn't be surprised, because this is actually the norm, because here it's going to be universal and eternal. It will be reaching everyone forever. So you have to be more careful. We should not be surprised if we hear that a well-established author says, I have written books, but I find it more difficult to write an essay for online publication. Unfortunately, many times it's vice versa. People are more stressful if they are going to write something which is going to be printed, but when it is going to be online, they're taking some liberty. We should not be surprised at all to hear such things, as we would not be surprised if an experienced and established chef says, I cannot cook comfortably in front of cameras or live online. The reason we do not hear often such comments, and often people are more relaxed to appear on internet and express themselves there compared to speaking to few people who stand before them, is that they have not yet understood the highly delicate and complicated nature of internet. It's enough just to have one bad experience or one good experience to understand the value and at the same time the seriousness of working on internet. This is like a person who says that I cannot speak or cook or paint in front of people, but if people are away, I have no problem. So if someone says, if I don't see people, but there's a camera, it's okay. This means this person is telling that it doesn't bother him how many people are watching him and judging about him. This is not making sense. Point 15. Although there are issues with social media, but it's not something which is inherently bad. This is a mistake if we think that internet, social media are inherently bad and we have to avoid them, because then this means that you are leaving them for the people who may not be using it in a pious way, and you may lose lots of opportunities for working there. So it's not that they are essentially necessarily bad. There are positive aspects to them and there are negative ones. You know, the Quran tells us that even with respect to gambling and alcoholic drinks, we should not forget that there are some benefits in them. يسألونك عن الخمر والميسر قل فيهما إثم كبير ومنافع للناس ولكن إثمهما أكبر من الناس. Surah Baqarah, verse 219. Allah says, they ask you concerning wine and gambling. Say, there is a great sin in both of them and some profits for the people, but their sinfulness outweighs their profit. So even in gambling, we should see that there is some benefit. There is something that can be useful, but the overall balance is for the negative side. So we should not say internet, social media is definitely, necessarily, completely, absolutely bad. No, there can be good use and bad use. When it comes to social media, we are faced with a kind of instrument or platform whose overall value very much depends on our approach. Although there is good use of internet and bad use, or there are benefits and harm, one may try to use it in the way which is only good and beneficial or merely bad or harmful. It's up to us to choose the best one. This is like using fire, which can be harmful or useful or mixed. You use it for cooking, it's good. It's burning your home, it's bad. And it can be mixed from one aspect. For example, you try to cook, but at the same time you burn some of the food. So by communicating via social media, we are capable of reaching a wide audience in different parts of the world. This is great. Our messages often reach people we have never met. Then this is a challenge. It's opportunity, but it reaches people that you don't know them. You have not met them. You don't know the way they analyze. You don't know their mentality. You may try to do something good, but you may offend them. So you have to be very careful. 16. Although if internet and social networking are used and handled properly, they will be very useful and can give a real boost to one's activities and pursuit of success. If they are misused or mishandled, they can lead to unbearable and irreversible consequences. So you have to be very careful. So you have to consider few things. Whatever you put on internet cannot be totally withdrawn. If you say, I'm going to delete, it's not going to stop. It seems there is no way, no one can guarantee that something would be deleted completely from internet. 2, there is no such a thing as privacy on internet. Even if you are private, you are on a private network, or you use private channels of communication, it seems impossible to remain anonymous for a long time. Many secrets are leaking out. 3, your messages, post pictures, etc., or what people put about you there can reach very fast to all kinds of people from different walks of life and with different mindset, interests, and agenda. So you have to be very careful. Next point. Appearing on intellect and social media gives people, whether they are friends or strangers or enemies, the chance to examine, evaluate, praise, or condemn you. So you are exposing yourself. You may get more credit, you may be receiving more blame and criticism. This may lead to unnecessary confrontations, rivalries, and tensions. What remains for us on internet may cause harm even after we stop using it or even after we die. If one has put a damaging or harmful post on internet, they may bring one pain and harm even after one dies. You will be responsible for what you have put there. Some of the virtues and values needed for moral use of internet have to be always remembered, even because after you die they can bear fruits. So, and I mean good fruits or bad fruits. Now, finally, I have mentioned some of the virtues that we have to observe. I just mentioned the name. We don't have, unfortunately, time. Truthfulness is very important. We cannot lie on internet, as we cannot lie in the real world, in the non-virtual world. Truthfulness and honesty are very important. Modesty, haya, is very important. We know that how much Islam puts emphasis on haya, modesty, positive shame, and internet can be very dangerous for losing your haya and modesty, because you find it easier to speak to strangers, to non-mahram, and so on and so forth, easier to find bad pictures, bad movies. So we have to be very careful. Dignity and honor, another virtue. Humbleness, another virtue. Patience, God-wariness. So all these virtues are to be achieved and preserved when we use internet. I think I stop here so that inshallah we can have some time for your questions. I hope what I said was useful and would make us more conscious in using internet and appearing on social media and networks. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Okay. I am trying to find your picture and okay. Are there questions here? Do we have any questions? Okay. Sheikh Hassanain, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Yes, there's a question.
Yes,
Is
there's
there
a question. Is there
responsibilities
responsibilities
for those working for
for
internet?
those working for internet? Pardon?
There is a question.
There is a question. Yes.
Is there a
Is there a
responsibility
responsibility
for
Yeah.
those
for those
working for internet
working for
companies?
internet companies? Of course, there is responsibility for anything that we do. Anything that we do, we should be answerable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if we are working in an internet company or internet provider company that they are doing mischief, they are harming people's piety and integrity, then we would also be responsible. But if, for example, you say, no, I just work in a company, they provide internet, we don't know what the users are going to do, what these companies are going to do with it. Some of them may do good things, some may do bad things. Here it seems that you are not responsible, but I advise everyone to check with the office of their marja and find out what would be the ruling of the marja for this case.
The next question.
The next question. Yes.
Can you read those, Sheikh?
Can you read those, Sheikh? Unfortunately, I don't know where I should find them. Last time I knew, but I forgot.
On the left side,
On the left side, if you see
attendee check.
Yes, yes. So one says 13. Attendance chat?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So which one? Okay, the next one, yeah. What if someone posted unethical thing on internet and now he or she realized it and ashamed of it? What should he be should do, because it's there now forever? Yeah, that's a very difficult part of it. You cannot really neutralize and nullify what you have done. So we have to do our best. If needed, we have to maybe put some clarification or put something to correct the issue. But if it's not something that can be corrected or improved, then we should ask Allah's forgiveness. We should pray. We should do good things so that inshallah we are forgiven. But it's very difficult. Will you please expand more on the practice of contemplation, tafakkur? How does one develop this as a habit? Yes, tafakkur is a great gift, and people who are able to contemplate, they are saved from many problems, and they have also access to many virtues. It's one of the very few things which is capable of changing your mind and heart together. When you keep thinking, ideas go from your mind to your heart. So what you have to observe in thinking is that it should not be a matter of just relaxing and doing nothing, because sometimes it can become just a kind of laziness. I don't do anything unless I'm thinking. Thinking should be done with plan. What time, where, what's the topic? Am I reflecting on the questions that I have prepared? Am I getting any results? Am I registering results? So tafakkur is a very structured thing that has manners, but it's excellent. It's a tool that makes the value of our actions a lot, makes us able to understand our problems, makes us able to understand opportunities, to find good friends or protect us from bad people. Lots of benefits come from thinking and contemplation. Okay, this was the last question. we have few minutes only, so it seems we don't have question. I hope that the session was useful. Inshallah, bi'ithnillah, the book of papers that were present in this conference in Oxford, including this paper, inshallah, are going to be published end of April with your du'as, and we will inform you when the book becomes available. Thank you very much, Sheikh Hassan and Qasem Ali, and thank you very much all our dear brothers and sisters who have been listening and interacting and sending questions. Please remember us in your dua. I pray for your success and for your family to be protected and blessed. And may Allah, inshallah, keep our community, wherever they are in the world, united and dignified and under Allah's direct care and support and guidance. And may, inshallah, du'as of Imam Mahdi, inshallah, include all of you, and his smile be always there when he receives the report of your actions. So if you don't mind, I say Khuda Hafiz, and I leave you in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's care and support. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.